WOVU LP, Cleveland.
This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Hello and welcome to Open Door. I'm Vince Robinson, and my guest today is Ms. Mikki Smith. She is the Vice President of Little Africa. It is a food cooperative here in Cleveland, Ohio, and they're doing great things in the community. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. And I'll just let everybody know, I know you're treasurer, you're money person.
I'm not the treasurer. I'm the VP.
I know. I'm just saying. I know your money person, the treasurer, Ms. Angela Sales.
Yes.
And she is definitely somebody who knows numbers and business and economics. She's an amazing person. And she's talked a little bit about Little Africa on some previous shows, but I want to take a deeper dive. So with that, welcome to Open Door.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Okay, and one of the reasons that we're having this conversation is because of an association that we have through the Circle.
Absolutely.
And we participated in a meeting, and you chimed in about a few things, and you trumpeted the Little Africa Food Co-op. So I got to shine the light on you. So first of all, tell us, how was Little Africa born?
How was Little Africa born? Little Africa was born behind the murder of Philando Castile back in July of 2016, where everyone that witnessed him being murdered in front of us on TV, he had all the necessary credentials that a black man could have, but yet he still got murdered by a white cop. And Tila, which is the founder of Little Africa Food Cooperative, she was answering a post to one of her friends proposed. Are y'all mad? Or what y'all going to do? You're going to do something about it? What are you going to do? So she put a post out there on Facebook. I was her friend at the time. And she said, meet me at 93rd at the corner of the Black Credit Union. And we're going to do something. That day, it was myself, Tila, and Marcus Greenwood. He's currently in Africa right now. We raised $1,400 to $1,500, took the money right over there, and opened up the bank account. And that was the start of the birth of Little Africa Food Cooperative, Little Africa Food Collaborative. We have two branches. We have our nonprofit and we have our for-profit piece. The cooperative is the for-profit and the collaborative is the nonprofit. In the collaborative, I am the board chair. I am also the community outreach director. And in the nonprofit sector, what our goal is to do is to ensure that the health and the wellness of our people in the community is given by the means of food. And we are the individuals that control that. We take ownership in feeding ourselves. That is what Little Africa Food Cooperative, Food Collaborative does. We take ownership in feeding ourselves. We make sure that our people is fed. It's nobody else's responsibility to feed our people but ours.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of bringing food and making it available, what kinds of things are you doing in order to make sure that you have that supply of food to provide?
Well, currently we work with Village Family Farms, which is actually at 1662 Malcolm X Way, or those may know it as Crawford Road, over in the Huff community. It's right off of 89th and Huff. We've been working with Jamel Rakira for the last 3 years over there. They have been in that community for 12 years. And what we did was we created synergy. And what is synergy? It's making sure that we are in alignment. He's growing food. We want to teach people how to grow food. What best way to do that than do it at our own farm that's owned by one of us? So we have a growing program. It's sometimes it lasts 32 weeks because it starts in April and it ends in October. And that's as you know, how Harvest Fest comes about. But every week, it's a 3-year sort of curriculum. The first year, we start you off with tomatoes, something small, to give you that green thumb. You can buy a plot at Village Family Farms, and with the whole growing program, the goal is that everybody is a part of it, where you buy a plot from Village Family Farm, you buy a membership from Little Africa Food Cooperative, and then we provide a kit, which will have your trowel, which will have your glasses, which have your knee pads and things like that, to help you with learning the art of growing food. We have seeds that you can grow at home. So weed actually is kind of like a baby. The food, the plant life is nothing but little baby children, right? You love on them, you plant the seeds, you water them, you talk to them just like you talk to your children, because it's life. And if anything, if that's what you're putting inside of you, right, you have to feed it. You feed it just like you want it to feed you. So you give it that love that you want to put inside your body. And that is what food does, right? Whenever we are together as the people, we fellowship really good off of food. We bring in our meals, and when we come together on food. So that's what Little Africa concept is. Let's come together. Let's heal and love on the people collectively and collaboratively. So how do we do that? One step at a time, one community at a time. We take it greenhouses and we transform greenhouses. Our goal is to have a whole lot of greenhouses and hoop houses all over the community, right? And then we have our own cooperative, our own grocery stores that's owned and operated by us. Our food is grown in these cooperatives. We know what we put on them because that is grown by our hands. Nobody else is feeding us. We are feeding each other.
So you mentioned tomatoes. What other kinds of things are you growing?
Tomatoes, cucumbers, red peppers, green peppers, watermelons, squash, zucchini, green onions, scallions. Man, I don't even know where to stop right now.
There's a lot of things.
We growing vegetables because, as you know, in Ohio, there's only specific, and a lot of herbs. In Ohio, because of the climate, there's only certain things that we can grow. So our goal is to maximize the herbs, maximize what we can grow, and then we sell it at the farmers market. We have 2 farmers markets. We have one on the corner of 89th and Martin Luther King in Crawford, and then we have the 1662 Crawford Road. And then Jamil also comes to Shaker Square on Saturdays, and that's where he also sells some of the things that he grows himself.
Okay. When it comes to growing food locally, sometimes it might be a bit more expensive because of the scale at which you operate. Mm-hmm. And so you'll have major chain stores that are able to offer cheaper prices because mm-hmm. of the volume. How do you address the disparity in the pricing between the big chains and then things like farmers markets?
It's understanding when your product is undervalued, right? A lot of our community gardens is undervalued because nobody knows the love and the time that is put into growing the food that you put on the table. When you have the massive chains, they used to production. They used to automatic, right? They got the machines. They have the manpower. People have to understand in our communities, we don't have the manpower and we don't have the capabilities of producing mass quantities. And that is the need for the people in the community. In order to be able to compete with the people, we need the people to help us compete. So our disparities is because the people are not there. That's the only reason why we're having these disparities, because the people don't know how important it is for them to come in and aid and assist for the betterment of their own future. Because what's going to happen when the grocery store is shut down and they can't feed you? You're going to be knocking on the community outreach director's door like, hey, I know you guys are feeding the people. How can we get that too?
Yes. Well, it's really an important thing to be focusing on right now, because as we have this conversation, we're having food shortages. They're saying that, products are being held up because they can't get them off the ships and all this. And you go to some stores and you can see that there are a lot of empty shelves. So they're really setting us up, it seems. And this is just, call me a conspiracy theorist if you want. But the reality is that products are not able to get to people right now.
Set up.
Yeah.
You said it.
Yeah. So we're going to have to be able to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
And the other thing that I want to emphasize is the quality of locally grown versus something that's shipped from the other side of the world. Essentially, what we should be doing is eating the things that grow around us.
We're supposed to.
We're supposed to, but we don't.
Right.
So we eat seedless watermelon all year, not knowing that we should be eating watermelon with seeds in season. In other parts of the world where they have warm weather all year round, they eat the foods that are in season at that time.
Absolutely.
And if it's not in season, they're not eating it. So, but the other thing I wanted to get to is the fact that you're growing all these things, and it's fresh vegetables, and I'm assuming that there might be some fruit in that mix as well.
Absolutely.
How do you go about preserving that? Because it has to last you beyond the growing season and the warm weather. Is there anything that you do to address the need
Canning.
to preserve?
Yeah, we do canning. Some of our vegetables that can be frozen, we freeze them as well. But right now, what we found is that a lot of the food we can and we can really preserve, and we can really live off the food in our region. We can live off the land. So when you can them, and if you just think about it, it don't take much for us to become full. When you begin to shorten your diet, we supposed to not eat to live, right? Not live to eat, but eat to live, right? So that's minimalist. Just learn to eat fresh vegetables, fresh fruit. That's how our people have always lived. And if you go overseas, they don't really have a lot of refrigeration, right? If you go to Italy, it's fresh herbs, fresh tomatoes. They're making everything fresh. Half of the times they don't store things because we're not really meant to store stuff. And even if you take a look in our communities, if you are one of the ones that go buy meat and like to freeze it, I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of the meat is spoiled. And you go home and you freeze it. So you don't even know that you got spoiled meat right at the onset. So even meat, we don't even supposed to be eating meat. That's a whole cannibalistic type of attitude and approach, right? But that's another subject, right? All in itself, because with the meat comes a lot of diseases. It's coming. That's why a lot of our people are ill. They know this. That's why a lot of our people are not healthy. We was given the intestines. We were given that to eat. Here, we just gonna give it. We may do, but we no longer have to make do.
Hold that point, because we're going to come back to that when we come back. You're listening to Open Door on 95.9 FM WOVU. I'm Vince Robinson, and my guest is Mikki Smith. She is the vice president of the Little Africa Food Co-op, and we're going to dive more into this idea of certain things that we may not want to consume as much of, if at all. We're going to open that can of worms in just a few moments. Open Door with Vince Robinson. We'll be right back.
It's okay to not be okay, meaning you're not alone in how you feel and what you're going through. There are millions of others who are either facing the same thing that you're facing or have faced it and lived to talk about it. So the other thing I would offer is it's also okay to ask for help.
This message of hope is from the Alcohol, Drug, Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County, the Suicide Prevention Coalition, and WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, Ms. Mikki Smith. Before we took this break, we were just talking about the ills of something that folks like so much. You know, it's funny, Mikki. I got a circular in the mail a few weeks ago. You know, on Tuesdays, that's when the flyers come. So you got Aldi, you got Save a Lot, you got Mark's, you got Dave's. And I looked at this one circular, and the whole front page was all meat. It was all meat. And then in the very center of it, I think there was one thing that you might consider a living thing. But I was looking at that, and I'm wondering, you know, when people see that ad and they see all that flesh, that's what it is, muscle tissue for the most part, and you have things like pork butt, you know, pork rump roast, you know. I'm like, okay, I think I want to have some rump today. But anyway, I was just noticing that. And, you know, what you were talking about in terms of the meat having deteriorated to a certain point and having a need to be preserved and knowing that they use things like carbon monoxide to treat the meat and extend its life, so to speak, even though it's actually dead at that moment. But in America, we have such a reliance on meat because we think that this is where we get protein from, and protein is so important to our diets, and they've transfixed us on this idea of protein. But reality is that we eat too much, and we eat too much meat. And the meat is one of the things that is causing the inflammation in our bodies that leads to pain and a lot of other dysfunction that we experience. There are people who are suffering from type 2 diabetes. And it's been documented, it's well known that if you have diabetes, and I'm not saying everybody, this is a broad brush, but you can adopt a plant-based diet and you can see results in a relatively short period of time. You remember that documentary, Hungry for Change? And you remember they had the subject that was from Cleveland, that worked at Huron Road Hospital, was treated by Dr. Edelston at the Cleveland Clinic, and he said, well, you know, we're going to give you a vegan diet, and we're going to suggest that you exercise and do things to relieve your stress. And at the end of 30 days, she wasn't taking her medication anymore, and she wasn't suffering from diabetes. And it's not that difficult a thing to do, but people just, for whatever reason, they just cannot fathom the idea of life without bacon.
It's kind of being programmed. You know, when you've been programmed that you need meat, breakfast, you got to have bacon, eggs, ham, hogs, pork, but pork shoulders. When you program it, that's what your family do, your health then becomes hereditary because you're passing down certain traditions, right? And then if you think about it, we're passing down generational illnesses when we technically don't have to. Once you know better, you do better. Once you know, you do better. And from that piece and from just understanding that, that's where Little Africa really wants to, we know better, so we want to do better. And what does that consist of? What does it look like? Being better people, right? We can't talk about the meat if we eating the meat, in a sense, right? I don't eat the pork. I don't eat the beef. It's a lot of stuff I've stopped eating, right? I do eat fish, right? I have nibbled on a couple chicken pieces, right? But that's the reason why the farm is getting ready to grow poultry. We're going to have our own chickens that's grown by us, so we know what is being put in it. For those who still has a desire to want to eat the meat, then we will grow that meat that is good for you to eat. Put it like that, right?
Right. And for some, there has to be kind of transition.
That's right.
So, we'll say, well, I'm going to stop eating the red meat, and then I'll transition to some of the others. So I might do fish, I might do chicken, but you also have to be cognizant of the way those animals were raised.
That's right.
So, I've been to Africa. I've seen chickens in the village, and they're nowhere near the size of the chickens that I see on the plates of folks.
That's right.
They're chickens that they're free range because they go wherever they want to go. They know how to find their way home. They know how to find what they need to eat. So the chickens are just fine, But there's a spiritual aspect to it too.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the things
like
that people are not aware of. And you mentioned the whole heredity piece, but you were talking about it within the context of being passed down from generation to generation.
The
so
health.
We're talking about habits.
Yeah,
that we
that's exactly what it is.
Generationally.
Yeah.
Because some folks will say, oh, high blood pressure runs in the family. Oh,
It's the habits.
diabetes runs in the
No,
family.
it's-
No, what you did to cause those
Yes.
things is what runs in the family. So
Yes.
let's not blame it on genetics.
That's right.
Maybe we can blame it on epigenetics, but we can't blame it on genetics.
That's right.
We are carrying the trauma and, to a certain extent, some of the habits of those who came before us, but we can also change those things by making changes in our lifestyle. So overconsumption is an issue. Obesity is what it is because people just eat too much.
That's right.
You don't have to eat 3 meals a day.
You don't.
Uncle Sam suggested that to you so that they could sell you meat 3 times a day.
Okay. Come on.
Or meat to eat 3 times a day, and milk to drink 3 times a day, and a bunch of the other things that are injuring your health several times.
What about the milk, right? Now, let's think about just the milk piece of it, right? We are supposed to eat milk from our mother up until the age of 5, right? That's the reason why they set the whole WIC system up so the kids could get free cow milk. If your child wasn't raised from a cow, why are you feeding it cow milk? Some of the doctors then came out and talked about this, but we still do some of this stuff that we really should not do. So again, that's kind of the goal of Little Africa, just educating our people to give them the insight of just because this is what you used to do don't mean that's what you're going to continue to do. And we're not going to allow you to continue to perpetuate this diabetes, this high cholesterol in our communities when it's really you. It's your habits. It's how you're eating. We don't have to have that. And they know that, right? They know we don't have to have that. They know you can get protein from beans. They know apples is a good, very source of potassium. That's why they say an apple a day, because that apple is really powerful and people don't really know it. Technically, for breakfast, you really supposed to have your lunch is supposed to be your biggest meal of the day. Technically, right? Your smallest meal of the day is supposed to be your breakfast. It don't supposed to be the biggest, the eggs, the toast, and all this. And we backwards. We learn backwards, and we continue to move in that light. We supposed to have maybe water, in the morning, a warm cup of water, and maybe a piece of fruit. Maybe a piece of fruit. Think about that, because that's what gets your organs in the morning working, and when your body's supposed to be regular, after you eat, it goes, right? That is how we really supposed to live. That is true living, and that's kind of what we do, right? We want you to live. We want to be able to love on our ancestors for a long time, our elders, not ancestors, but our elders for a long time. They got the knowledge. But again, some of our elders are not living their best life because of some of their habits. Right. So we want to just streamline all of that.
Yeah. I'm curious about the response that you get when you tell folks that they need to reconsider some of their habits, and you sell them on the idea of getting fresh produce from their community and so forth, and you may mention to them that, well, this meat might be problematic, or you might want to consider another alternative, and this is what they've known all of their lives. How do you deal with the pushback that comes from folks that are kind of trapped in?
We show them.
Okay.
You just show them. Give a demo, right? A lot of our people are out here getting food, free food from the food banks, the pantries, and the communities. Some of the food, they don't even know what it is, the zucchini, squash, and stuff. We show them. We show them how to take the free food that's given to you, and you have a nice, valuable meal, something that's tastes great, and you create it by your hands. That's what we do. We show them, give them demos, give them recipes, right? And then we cook for them and put it in our food that we deliver to them and say, oh, did you know that was squash this week? Or we added squash in our spaghetti. We added zucchini in the spaghetti. So just taking something that they used to eating and adding those fresh vegetables in there as ingredients, they don't even know what hit them. For example, I'm just going to tell you, for the Harvest Fest we had with Sister Aku over at Africa House. And we were the cooks. Little Africa was the cooks for the weekend. And I had a bean soup. It was a 15-bean soup that I cooked. But I had one of the partners, she cooked no meat, and I cooked the one with the meat. I had smoked turkey. And I put every vegetable you can think of, squash, zucchini, just cut them all up in there in that bean soup. And that was a hit. And it made me think of, how our parents used to make succotash. And it was just a lot of different stuff that we really didn't eat, but they just put it all together and it became a meal. But we got to start teaching them the recipes, teaching them something other than macaroni and cheese and greens and stuff like that. The greens don't always have to have the hog mog in it.
Yeah, and they don't have to be cooked for 5 hours either.
They don't.
Yeah.
Al dente, our people don't know nothing about.
I posted something on Facebook the other day. I shot a wedding recently, and I was standing in front of the buffet line and just taking note of the things that they were offering, and so, I always look for the beans, right? So I saw they had baked beans, and the man was there to serve, and I said, well, do the beans have any meat in them? And he lit up like, oh, yes. I believe there might be some brisket in there, or I'm sure there's bacon. I'm like, okay, well, that eliminates that. How about the green beans? He says, oh, yes, they definitely have bacon in them. So I'm like, well, is there anything vegan on this line?
Yeah.
And he's like, no.
Everything.
He was kind of apologetic, but thankfully, a few moments later, somebody pointed to a table across the room, and there was a number of things on the table that were provided by Cleveland Vegan.
Ah.
So my caption read, best wedding reception ever.
Yes.
I ate good tonight.
We are getting away from a lot of things that we were taught. A lot of us are waking up, we start thinking when you congest it, it's a lot of the cheese that you're eating, Mm-hmm. A lot of us love cheese. Grits and cheese, eggs with cheese,
Yes.
Yeah.
Just reminds me of that song that Jill Scott sang, and she was talking about how she had, the grits and all those things, and she said she was full all day. And I'm like, yeah, you were probably clogged all day. You're listening to Open Door right here on 95.9 FM WOVU, having a great conversation with Mikki Smith, Vice President of the Little Africa Food Co-op. We're going to talk more food, and we're going to talk more about Mikki Smith, the person, because she was dropping bombs on me before we started this conversation. So we're going to explore a few other uncharted roads when we come back. This is 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Bell Car community radio station. Back in a minute.
Hello, I'm Mayor Frank Jackson. The City of Cleveland Division of Police is accepting applications for patrol officers. A career in the Division of Police offers a competitive salary, great benefits, job security, and opportunities for career advancements. We are seeking a diverse group of young individuals who are motivated and who represent the people we serve and protect. To speak to our recruiting officer, call area code 216-623-5233. Again, that's 623-5233. You can also visit the City of Cleveland's website for more information. Thank you, and we look forward to receiving your application.
To submit your application online, visit governmentjobs.com/careers/Cleveland. This message is brought to you by the City of Cleveland and WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
Welcome back to Open Door. I'm Vince Robinson with my guest, Mikki Smith, Vice President of Little Africa Food Co-op. They're growing food, they're marketing food, they're selling food, they're cooking food that folks can enjoy. Yes. I'll take the beans without the turkey, sausage or whatever in there, because I know, that turkey stuff, it is high in sodium. That's how they get you past the fact that it's not pork. They put a lot of salt in it to make it taste good, and then you say, oh, I'm not eating pork, I'm using turkey bacon. Okay, all right. I'll just take the beans. But let's talk about Mikki.
Yes, let's talk about Mikki. What is it you want to know? I do so much out there, right? I put it out there. But when it comes to me actually talking about myself, I rarely talk about myself. I'm a doer, right? I don't like to just meet just to meet. Once I meet, then the next meeting got to be action, right? So, Miss Mikki Smith, I am a mother of 4. I have one daughter that is deceased. She passed away in 1993. I have 3 boys, a grandmother of 8. I retired in 2019 from insurance company, Medical Mutual of Ohio. I worked there for 22 years. I left in IT. I left working in IT. And why? I was making good money. Why did she leave? Well, when you have a beautiful brain and your brain is not being valued and your brain is not being used in the capacity that it should be used, then you have to do yourself something great, and that's expand your horizons. It wasn't inside of that wall that I was my absolute best. I was my best when I was outside of them walls, and it became to the point where I was going in the COO's office, closing his door and saying, hey, I got something I want to talk to you about. I was going into my manager's office and saying, hey, listen, your management style and my management style don't agree, right? So it got to the point where you got 3 digits behind your name, so do I. You tell me to go get a degree, I go get 2. You tell me go get 1 certification, I go get 3. So you can never come back and say, I don't have the necessary education, I don't have the necessary certification. So I always empowered myself with education, because when I was a little girl, that was one thing my mother always said. They can't take your brain away from you. Education, they can't take nothing you know. They can try to take away your freedom, they can try to take away your lights, whatever, but they can't take nothing that's up here. And that's how I've always moved. I'm thirsty for knowledge. I'm thirsty to learn. I am very mindful as it relates to just coming into other people in spaces, because a lot of people have a lot of knowledge that I may not have. So it may seem like I'm, just writing down everything people are saying, but I'm thirsty to understand. I'm thirsty to know. I thrive off of knowledge, knowing more than I did an hour ago, 2 hours a day ago. Every day I'm out to learn something new. And with that, I've learned to create my own spaces. I learned to create my own work for myself. you don't have to give me nothing. I give myself my work, what I want to do, what I want to leave, the legacies that I want to leave behind for my grandchildren, for my children. You know, standing on the shoulders of my ancestor is a tall order, and I'm ready for that order. But I couldn't do it inside the perils of corporate America. I couldn't do it. I wasn't my best version of self, still working for someone that was controlling me by taking 37% of my taxes out of my check before I even get it. And then at the end of the year, you still want some more of my money that I'm working for. I'm the one that's getting up. I'm the one that's doing this. But somehow I'm working and working and working and working, but I'm not getting nowhere. So I just began to just start taking money and putting it away, start saving. So I was there for 22 years. So I saved, you know, did the max on my 401k, made sure that, you know, I learned about the stocks and the bonds, you know, invested like my children, you know, invested with their money and stuff like that. They was in a car accident when they were younger, so I was able to, you know, be their lawyer and advocate on their behalf, had them to get certain annuities, you know what I'm saying, at pivotal times in their life, 18, 21, 25, right? So that way, when they became 18, 21, 25, them nice payouts allowed them to level up as a young man at them times. I never wanted my children working for anyone. I always want them working for themselves. I told them when they was little kids, you know, we're going to have an empire. We're going to have an empire, and I'm going to continue to work towards that. What does that encompass? Hard work. If I can work 40 hours for somebody else, I can work 40 hours for myself. And that is what I do. I just empower the people to be more than what you was yesterday. You know, I have a nonprofit. It's called T-Boy, Taking Back Our Youth. I deal with recidivism. I deal with men, women, and the youth. I'm a gap filler, right? So we got all these organizations that's out here getting the funding, getting the money, you know? But are they really taking care of the people? Are they really being fulfilled in what their mission and vision is? Or is it just about the check? I don't care about the check at this particular time. I want to know, is my people being taken care of? And are they okay? I wouldn't be a good neighbor if I was eating well and my neighbor was hungry every day. And I never decided to go take a look and say, hey, are you okay? Do you need something? See, that's the Mikki Smith, right? I'm a collaborator, you know. That's barter. You smart, right? I'm smart. So I need you for something. You need me for something. But what if we don't have to, have to pay each other? How about I help you with this and you help me with that? I just want to see us all win. I just want to see our people have the opportunity to have something for themselves. Bring back our Black Wall Street. There is a little Italy. There is a China in every freaking community. But we don't have a little Africa. We don't have a place where Black communities or Black people can go and say, oh, there is a little Africa in Philly. There's a little Africa in Compton, whatever the case may be. We don't have that. We have to create that. And who is Miss Mikki Smith? I'm my own revolutionary. I move when I move. I move how I choose to move. And if I don't feel like moving, I don't move. I don't move on the behalf of no one but Miss Mikki Smith, right? So when they say, well, you a community activist, you know, we done seen you with this organization. I may have been a part of that organization, but I still stand on my own. I don't move for anyone but myself. And that's what I want to empower others to do. I got a girlfriend, you know, she was working with me at Medical Mutual. I'm like, this your last year working. I retired, you could do it too. Because I know what I've empowered my people to do. We're not meant to work for nobody else, period. That's a misconception. I'm not teaching my children to grow up and go to college and be in their institutions. We are so institutionalized with their institutions. Their institutions, they work. We have to figure out what works for us, we have to get off of their institutions. And I'm like Nanny the Maroon, you know. I'm that one. Like, I'm going to buck the system. I bucked the system for 22 years inside of the corporate America. I bucked their systems because I knew it wasn't for me, but I had to get them foundation. I had to get the education. I had to get it. So, you know, I'm just my own little revolutionary spirit that just tramples through the Cleveland, East Side, West Side, the rural areas. That's me.
Yes. Well, I'm looking at the earrings. Earrings say Black Girls Rock. They're quite impressive, I will say. But it just occurs to me that you're like an army of one, but you collaborate with others, join their armies, and you move towards victory.
That's right.
Whatever it looks like. You mentioned your children and how you steer them away from the idea that they should just get a job and go work for someone. What are your children into?
Well, unfortunately, my oldest son, he's 32, he was involved in something, and he is away for 12 years. My middle son, he has what is called authentic auto sales, authentic towing. He's in Florida. He has his own business, and it's in automotives. So he has his own tow trucks. He has his own towing company. He sells cars and things of that sort. So he is his mother's social entrepreneur. And then his youngest one, he's 17, and I'm trying to figure out which way to go with him. You know, with so many things around our children, so many impressions, social media, it's been hard for our children to find their way. There's so many blockage that they're faced with. They're faced with things that we was not ever faced with. And if we did, a pigeon had to come tell the story, you know, or a pager, you know, or even with the pagers, you still had to go to the phone to call somebody after you got the message. It wasn't instant. So they are their own entrepreneurs. And then I got a whole nother 8, right? Them 8 grandbabies. Everything they think of is always a way in which you can fund it yourself. You know, I got a grandbaby that's 4 and he like Roblox. I said, oh, you want to learn coding on Roblox? So by the age of 6, you can be coding and you can have your own games. You know, I got a grandson that's good on something else. I said, oh, well, if you like this, you can go ahead and buy it and then you can sell the access. And then that way you like it. And then others, I'm always teaching them the financial pieces of being their own entrepreneurs, because they got great minds, because their grandmother got a great mind. So, and I know their fathers got great minds, and I know their mothers got great minds. And I just want to see them not fall into what others have been teaching their children. Go work for somebody else. Yeah, I know some people are workers. Some people are not meant to have their own business. But in the way in which I'm growing up, my children, I want you to be able to feed yourself, cook for yourself, go get your own everything. I don't want you to depend on nobody, not even me.
That is amazing. The fact that you're sitting here telling me that you have 8 grandchildren, and you know, when I saw you in the meeting the other night, you know, you look like a 30-something. So I'm just blown away. 22 years in insurance. Mm-hmm. I did 27 years in insurance. I've been retired for over 6 years. It might even be 7 by now. Yeah, it's 7 years.
Okay.
It's a closed chapter. I'm done with insurance. But anyway, I'm just so impressed. And I want to talk to you about that at that Anti-Recidivism Program that you told me that you
taking
started.
Back our youth.
We're gonna talk about that when we come back. You're listening to and watching Open Door with Vince Robinson. I am talking with Ms. Mikki Smith, who is just blowing me away with all of these anecdotes, and we're going to get more on this recidivism piece that she's involved in when we come back. This is Open Door, 95.9 FM, WOVU, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station. We'll be right back.
WOVU listeners, we understand that COVID-19 has taken a toll on our emotional health, our physical health, and our financial health, which can lead us down a scary path when it comes to our housing situation, with many of us facing eviction. But we want you to know that Cleveland residents, there is help for you. If you are a renter in Cleveland, you have kids in your home, and you meet certain low-income guidelines, you can access free help from the Legal Aid Society by calling 216-687-1900. That's 216-687-1900. And those who qualify will be able to get free legal help for their eviction cases. You can also visit freeevictionhelp.org 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to apply. Remember, there is no shame in facing eviction. The Legal Aid Society is here to help. Call 216-687-1900 right now. This message is brought to you by the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, the United Way of Greater Cleveland, and WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
For more information about Little Africa Food Co-op, visit them at littleafricafco.com. Find them on Facebook as Little Africa Food Collaborative or call them at 216-345-9712. Back once again on Open Door with Vince Robinson, and I'm with my guest, Mikki Smith. She is the Vice President of Little Africa Food Cooperative, and we're going to give folks a way to connect and find out about all the great things that we're doing before we conclude this show. But right now I want to talk to you about this Anti-Recidivism Program. It is a significant issue in our community because folks come back from doing their time at the university, that they call it, and when they come out, they come back to a society that is not ready to receive them in many cases. And so what happens is they go back to the things that they were doing before, and they end up right where they started from, handicapped. So you see this need and you decide, I'm going to do something about that, because you're a doer. You're not a talker.
Right.
You're a doer. So you saw this need and then you created this program. Tell us about its genesis and what it's doing right now.
It's called Taking Back Our Youth, T-Boy. And T-Boy originated because them two boys that I just spoke of, when they were younger, at the age of 18, they both went away the same time. I'm working 3 jobs. I'm doing everything, both of them in private schools. It's like, how did the streets get to mine? You know, hockey, golf. I kept them in every program you can think of. You should see my cabinet. I got trophies everywhere. And I lost it. Like, how did the streets get to mine? And then I just went through a period of just trying to figure it out. So while they're doing their 4 years, I'm writing, visiting, you know, I was consistent, right? And in my consistency, others watched the consistency of my plight with my children. I got into the system and was like, okay, so children under the age of 21, it's mandatory for y'all to give them education. So now I'm calling the prison education system, right? You got to put my son on the list because he needs education. So now I'm dictating and telling them how to take care of my children. Who does that? Most parents feel like once their children is gone, they gone. Nah, not mine, right? So, okay, I found out, okay, so now y'all about to give my kids education? Cool. Now, when it get in trouble or things like that, I had a son who had his nerve severed from his spine at the age of 15 because he was in a bad car accident. He was one of St. Ed's top players, basketball, football. But once the nerve severed from the spine, he really was no longer a good candidate to be number one for football or basketball. So it kind of put him in a different type of space. He was no longer good at what he'd always been good at. So he got in a bad car accident and things of that sort. So he had to be where he was housed. I needed it to be special. It was bunk and it was in Trumbull, and it was easy for him. So his levels dropped, but I was able to tell the warden, like, no, he's safe there enough for me. I need you to keep him there until his time is up. And that right there, when people began to see how I moved with my children inside, I became the mother hen of these prisons that my kids were at. So I began to advocate for them, began to advocate for their parents. Then when I started finding out mothers haven't seen their kids in 7 years, now I'm like, are you serious? How could you allow your son not to see you in 7 years? It didn't resonate with me. I don't care what he did. He's still yours. So I began to get on the parents and, taking them to go see their kids. Now I'm helping them in the inside. I'm helping their families on the outside. I'm taking trips. I'm becoming their everything. I'm the gap filler. So now that I see, there was this young man named Toby. And as you can see, taking back our youth is TBOY. His name was Toby, TOBY. He said, Miss Mikki, you should do this for real. You're really good at it. I'm like, what? So he's like, yeah. So that's what made me come up with the acronyms, because he said, Miss Mikki, you do it. And he created a way for me to come inside of the prison to bring my program, because he was running programs through Toastmasters. So I began to go through the prisons through my organization with Toastmasters, because they were already demonstrating that they had a need to want to speak eloquently. It gave them a format. They knew how to look up words, so they already had it. So it was kind of like a perfect marriage. They're doing the speaking and things like that, and then T-Boy will help them structure their business, structure how they move when they come home, help them with the plan, so they're not coming home lost. I already know so many organizations, they say they for you, but they're not really for you, because most of them have called those organizations and they don't answer the phone. But they get the funding, but they don't pick up the phone. So what I did was I created my own resources within their systems. All I need is one person to help in their system. So if I got a young man that needs housing, I found someone that I knew housing, that does housing. If there was a young man that needed a birth certificate, I figured out who I can depend on or who I can count on in their systems to make sure that my men, my youth, my women did not have those impediments coming home. So I've been doing this, really for the last 10 to 12 years. This year I can say I'm really getting traction this year. Because a lot of the men, I've been doing judicial releases, getting them home, got a lot, working on that. My uncles was in prison, so I said, hey, you don't have nobody. Let me help you from a niece perspective. Even your sisters, your brothers, your kids, nobody is reaching out to you. You need some form of communication with family. So it just gave me, when my boys went away, it gave me a whole new way and outreach of looking at things. It just, the way I was looking at things, I looked at it a lot differently once my boys was inside. From a mother's perspective, from just who do they have? Now, you got a lot of boys that's incarcerated that don't have nobody. They done turned their backs on them. So now they subjected to what goes on inside of them walls, when if they had somebody, they probably wouldn't be subjected to it, because they know somebody is out there, got their back. But when them kids at 18, 19 go in there and they ain't got nobody, they're gone. And it's a war zone for it hurts. In this space, it hurts. It hurts because We know what is already against them before they even get to the prison system. So for me, being a mother, being a sister, being a girlfriend sometimes, may have someone that went incarcerated. Just watching how they take our men, our kids, our women, and put them away and treat them like they're nothing. We all make mistakes. They do the time, they did the crime, but once they come home, they still treat it like a criminal. They did their time. So why do they still have to be labeled? Why do they still? I get it. For some I understand that there's a dysfunction up here, that some of them, that's where they should be at. I'm not negating that. But then there's others that, I had a guy 20-some years, he was inside and he was innocent, right? Now he has the ability to live his best life, but even in living his best life, he still lost 26 plus years with his children, with his wife, with his family. The one thing that I say is I'm happy that he was able to come home and then his father passed away. You get me? So it's a lot of men that lost they family, then lost kids, you know. You have to be cut for this. You have to have that thick skin. And as a woman and as a mother, I created a skin that you can't cut me, you know. There's no cutting in. You can't buy me. You're not buying this one here. You could have $1 million. I know how to go out there and make my own money. There's nothing about me that will be bought. You're not buying my soul. It's not for sale. My people is not for sale. So that right there is how I move, even inside of these facilities. You know, I was just literally at a place that deal with homelessness, and I was a volunteer. Do you know they fired me as a volunteer because they never seen the men come to a class as the ones that was there coming to the class. They was there every Tuesday, every Thursday, before I even got to the class. Now they sending people in, what this volunteer doing. So now I'm asking, because I want to know. You asked me to do group. What else do y'all do? This is a volunteer position, but how do y'all help the people?
Well, why did they fire you?
They fired me because I was advocating for the men that was coming to the group. What is the process? How long do they supposed to be here? The reason why I went, because I had an uncle inside of that facility, and he was okay with being there for 12 years. So I needed to know, what in a person's right mind want to be part of a shelter for 12 years and you are okay with it? I needed to see. I needed to really understand the mentality of the people that work there, the mentality of the people that's inside of there. And when I got in there, it was crazy.
Mm. It's kind of like you having that conversation with the supervisor, you know, and you're saying, look, something about this needs to change because it's not working, you know, and you just want to continue with the status quo. And we see that happening a lot in society. You know,
that's why I got fired.
There are things that need to change, and we keep doing things the way we've always done them. I'm mindful of the school funding model. You know, I'm a homeowner. I don't have any children, never did, but you put the responsibility for paying for a child's education on my shoulders, and like you were talking about that 37% tax, you know, and they leave you with what's left, you know, and at the same time, prices of everything are rising and they're not increasing your pay to address that. So there are just so many things that have needed to be changed and they're not changing, and folks are they're comfortable with the system of racism that has perpetuated us having those prisons full of black and brown men and women. So A lot of deep stuff that we've covered. The time has flown by.
Wow.
I feel like I'm sitting here next to Asantewa. And most folk out there probably don't know who Asantewa was or is, because her spirit still lives. And I'm saying right now that the spirit of Asantewa lives through Mikki Smith. So
thank you. That's an honor.
Mikki, I want to thank you for joining me here. Folks can reach out to Little Africa. I'm sure you can find them on Facebook.
Oh, yes,
and
you can
find them on social media. Connect with them. Take advantage of the fresh produce that they're putting out there, and some
hot meal delivery too.
And the hot meals, I was going to mention that. I'm glad you did. But check on them, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your best day. Peace.
Peace.